To order, welcome to meeting number 39 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Fisheries and Oceans. The meeting, of course, is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to House Order of June 23, 2022. Before I proceed, I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of witnesses and members. Please wait until I recognise you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. Please address all comments through the chair. Finally, a reminder that screenshots or taking photos of your screen is not permitted. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on January 20, 2022, the committee is resuming its study of the North Atlantic right whale. We will hear from witnesses for the first hour and a half and then finish up the meeting with 30 minutes of drafting instructions. I would like to welcome our panel of witnesses. Representing the Acadian Peninsula's Regional Service Commission, we have Jules Hachet, member of the Board of Directors. Representing Corbeau Engineering, we are joined by Philippe Cormier, President. And appearing as an individual in person, we have Mr. Gerard Chidley, captain of his own fishing enterprise. Thank you for taking the time to appear today. You will each have up to 5 minutes for an opening statement. I'll invite Mr. Chidley to begin, please.
J'ai un appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
I'd like to call a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
For sound and interpretation, so we're all good.
Merci au bénéfice de nos aides.
Thank you very much on behalf of our interpreters.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Ministers, panel members, and certainly the Secretariat. And Christine, thank you for your patience in getting me here. Thanks for the opportunity to appear as a witness on this very important issue for our industry. My name is Gerard Chidley. I'm an independent owner-operator from Newfoundland, Labrador. We own and operate a 20-metre fishing vessel on the east coast of the island, multi-species licence holder, and the crew of the vessel is seven members. Family-run business, and have been that way for 50 years. We've 50 years experience fishing on the ocean, fishing many different NAFO divisions and species. My certification includes a Fishing Masters Class 1 and a Masters Near Coastal Certificate in the Merchant Marine. And in those years, I've served in many capacities and chaired many different organisations and fleets, served as ICAC Commissioner, NAFO Commissioner, Chair of the FRCC, Industry Chair of MUN CFR, chaired our crab and shrimp committees, and served on the Inshore Council for 10 years with the FFAW, which I'm still a member. I partnered with the Marine Institute, which is a division of MUN, in bycatch reductions, trawl designs, energy efficient studies on trawls and vessels to provide a more eco-friendly operation. Early in 2021, I was made aware that there was discussions underway to look at reducing breaking strains on haul-up ropes to allow the rope to bust in the event of entanglement with right whales. I remember my first thought, right whale, wrong solution. I remember discussing this with some of my fellow harvesters and thought, whoever came up with this never spent any time on the North Atlantic fishing crab, cod, Greenland halibut, or any other fishery that required the use of haul-up lines. So in November of 2021, I wrote an email to some of our regional DFO people, and I included some of our Newfoundland Labrador federal members, some of our provincial people. I've shared that email with you guys for your reading enjoyment. But the fact that this hasn't been viewed as a ridiculous idea is why I'm appearing before you today. I'm hoping to shed some light on the devastation that this will cause our industry by answering from experience any questions that you may have. In Newfoundland Labrador, we work in a completely different environment on the East Coast and encounter every obstacle from ice to debris loss from cargo ships and storms, but yet not many incidents are encountered or reported. Why, you may ask? It's because we communicate with each other and give positions of danger on a real-time basis. This is what we need to do to mitigate any possible right whale encounters before it becomes an incident. Put a tracking device in the animal at first sight and broadcast the positions on a real-time basis. I have reviewed the sighting maps provided by DFO, and we do not have a right whale problem on the East Coast. Simply put, you may never have to deploy a tracking device. You will note that in my email, I spoke only to break constraints, but that same applies to ropeless fishing gear. While most of us have individual quotas, we do not operate on individual pieces of ocean like farmland. I will highlight the issues I know to be a major issue that threatens our resource if we go down this ill-conceived path. Loss of fishing gear inflict huge replacement costs on harvesters. Ghost fishing at a time when money has been spent on clean oceans initiatives. Threat to our conservation and sustainable resource due to the immeasurable impact of lost gear and ghost fishing. Higher fuel costs due to more trips necessary to land product. An impact on onshore employment when fishing trips are lost or reduced. And certainly at a time when the environment is front and foremost, there must be a concern for the increase of the carbon footprint of fish when more trips are necessary. But in saying all this, the unintended consequences of reducing the gear breaking strains is that this gear can now be parted by small pieces of ice, and other small mammals will become entangled due to the smaller diameter rope. Those are the notes that I provided in the beginning. I made some hand notes to continue because as I speak a little faster, I still have a minute or so left. As I've mentioned, the tracking of right whales, there's many benefits whether they come into our fishing zone or other zones. We use satellite tags to track bluefin tuna, and breeding animals would be easier as they surface to breed. The benefits are not limited to insight into the life cycle of the right whale, real-time record of the migration routes and any deviations, accurate time of entry and departure electronically, an ability to broadcast real-time positions to ocean users. And it also increased in cooperation from industry and other ocean users. Last but certainly not least, as a safety concern is of utmost importance to us as vessel operators, so reducing breaking strains pose a huge risk factor if the rope parts while in the hauler. And that's why we change out our gear every 4 years. If the gear is frayed, there's always a risk that someone will get struck with when the rope parts off. There was no meaningful consultations by DFO with industry on this issue other than an invitation to participate in a Zoom call where most of the allocated time was taken up by presentations and very little time to engage industry. But being an optimist, I'm going to give DFO the benefit of doubt on this one, and being the optimist, I believe the lack of consultations by DFO with industry on this issue to mean that the lack of sightings and presence in our fishing zones means minimum likelihood for sightings and or other incidentals to occur, and therefore no action is necessary. The DFO Whale Group, headed by Wayne Ledwell, also agrees with this. But what is disconcerting are the lengths those organisations will go to forward their cause with seemingly disregard for the impact on other ocean users and environments. But what's equally disconcerting to me is that the governments of today, that's not reflecting any colour, are willing to condone those antics, and as it is extremely damaging to the value of our industry and in turn our rural economies. Thank you.
I got to chap you there, Mr. Chidley. We're going a couple of minutes over, actually, to 5 minutes, and I know you provided a copy of your statement to the committee. So we'll now go to Mr. Eshe for 5 minutes or less, please.
Bonjour.
Hello. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for giving our Acadian Peninsula communities the opportunity to participate in this session. I'm Jules Haché, Mayor of the town of Lamec, New Brunswick, and spokesperson for the Canadian Peninsula Regional Services Commission. The Acadian Peninsula Regional Services Commission is a regional municipal service delivery organization representing 14 municipalities and 32 unincorporated territories. Today, I will be speaking primarily on the importance of the fisheries sector on our communities. I will leave it to our professional associations to make specific technical recommendations on the right whale issue. The fishing and seafood processing industry is an important economic sector for the entire province of New Brunswick, and more specifically for the Acadian Peninsula region. As a rural coastal region of approximately 50,000 inhabitants, the social fabric of our community has been greatly influenced by this activity for generations. This sector is also supported by a renowned research network and increasingly modern processing facilities. Therefore, any measures taken that will have significant impacts on fishing methods will likely have considerable economic and social consequences on the communities in our region. According to a recent study conducted by economists Maurice Baudin and Marcel Le Breton, the fishing industry in New Brunswick has ramifications that go far beyond their sector of activity. There are nearly 6,500 fishermen and fishermen's helpers working on 2,300 boats. These vessels are anchored at 70 commercial fishing harbors, many of which are vibrant centers for services, employment, investment, community life, recreation, tourism, etc. As well, there are approximately 60 processing companies employing about 7,000 workers, plus related businesses closely associated with the industry. In 2021, New Brunswick exported over $2.2 billion in seafood products to over 70 countries around the world. This makes it one of the largest exporters in the country. In the northeast region of New Brunswick alone, which includes the Acadian Peninsula, nearly 4,400 direct and indirect jobs are generated by fisheries and the processing sector. These jobs alone represent $207 million in wages and benefits. According to a study done in 1998 by economist Maurice Baudin, fishing and fish processing dominate by far the economic landscape of our region, representing nearly a quarter of the jobs and income generated. Our professional organizations in the fisheries sector, who have already spoken to this committee, have always shown a willingness to participate in various initiatives to mitigate the effect of fishing practices on ecosystems, including the right whale. In 2018, the initial implementation of the measures to protect the right whale created a real climate of general uncertainty. This feeling was felt by all affected stakeholders, but also by all of our communities because of the direct and indirect link of this activity on our region's economies. As we expressed at the time to the Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and Canadian Coast Guard, the Honourable Dominique Leblanc, we were aware that measures had to be taken by the federal government to protect the species. At the same time, in this scientific equation, it is important to consider social and economic factors to the same extent. Since then, efforts have been concentrated mainly on restrictions. We can agree that these have demonstrated some success in reducing the mortality rate of right whales caused by fishing gear. However, these restrictions are not without consequences on the industry. Work should now be focused on the industry, primarily on optimizing fishing practices under current conditions to ensure the viability of the sector and the safety of people working in it. To achieve this, collaboration between our professional associations and DFO representatives is essential. In addition, all the initiatives deployed by the industry in recent years to reduce the impacts on marine ecosystems should benefit from a positive communication strategy on an international scale. Sharing a constructive message regarding efforts for coexistence between the fishing industry and the right whale should certainly allow for better protection of the integrity of our American and international markets, in addition to valorizing the work done by thousands of fishermen in our regions. Thank you.
For 5 minutes or less.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, hello. My name is Philippe Cormier, engineer, naval architect, and president of Corbeau Consulting Engineering, a New Brunswick firm founded in 2007, which employs some 40 engineering and architectural professionals. As you may know, the snow crab industry in the Gulf region has had quite a surprise in 2017 following the massacre of right whales found and entangled in their ropes. Having already worked regularly with fishermen, the associations representing them came to me to find solutions that could reduce the impact of commercial fishing on this species. Starting in 2018, thanks to the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, we worked on an initial 3-year project that allowed us to evaluate 19 very broad avenues of solutions that allowed us to quickly develop expertise of international scope. Without going into too much detail, we were among the first to test rope-free technologies for commercial fishing. We contributed to the development of the first low-breaking strength ropes, also called weak ropes. We evaluated existing fishing techniques as well as the behavior of fishing ropes in the water. In short, all kinds of technologies and methods allowing us to reduce past, present, and future risks. Having worked with several snow crab and lobster fishermen associations from across the Atlantic and Quebec, we have put a lot of effort into bringing to the forefront the sustained efforts of Canadian fishermen and the Canadian government to allow the coexistence of commercial fishing and right whales in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Since 2018, this work has been shared by several national media outlets as well as media outlets with international reach such as the New York Times, BBC, National Geographic, The Guardian, Smithsonian Magazine, seafoodnews.com, and many others. Based on the results of the first round of testing, which was very broad, we have been focusing our efforts since 2020 on those that we believe hold the most promise for risk reduction. In 2021, with the collaboration of people from DFO and the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, we were the first in the world to propose a commercial fishery taking place in the middle of closed areas using a rope-free system. During the 2022 season, more than 20 fishers participated in a trial that allowed them to catch more than 203 metric tons of snow crab using 1,000 traps without any vertical rope in the water that could pose risks to marine mammals. Although these trials have shown very positive results, several technical and logistical challenges remain before this option can be implemented on a large scale. It's also important to note that this is a tool that should allow fishermen who wish to do so to continue fishing in closed areas in the presence of right whales, and that it would be impractical, unviable, and above all unsafe for this option to be used outside of closed areas or on fishing grounds that are not adapted to this option. Another technology that we are putting a lot of effort into is the use of low breaking strength ropes and low breaking strength chains. According to the theory, this technology would be able to break a fishing rope at a tension of less than 1,700 pounds or 770 kilograms, whereas the ropes currently used are nearly 20 times stronger. Although we have developed tools that assist in the use of weak ropes, our results show that a few more years of research, development, and testing are still needed before we can declare beyond any doubt that this solution will not pose any greater risk to right whales, the environment, and crew safety than the current situation. Finally, in partnership with the Canadian Crabbers Associations and the Ghost Gear Fund, we are currently in the middle of a recovery operation for fishing traps and traps that have been abandoned, lost, or washed up on the ocean floor, and that no longer have any buoys on the surface that would allow us to locate and easily recover them. We estimate that there are hundreds of thousands of these traps on the ocean floor. I'd like to conclude by saying that there is no magic bullet to solve the problem yet, but we have come to an incredible distance. We have come very far, rather, in just 5 years, and I can assure you that we are far ahead of our neighbors to the south. The secret to our current and future success can be summed up in a few points. The speed with which fishermen decided to tackle the problem head on and their commitment to finding effective and sustainable solutions, the bond of trust that was created between fishermen, engineers, and scientists, as well as Fisheries and Oceans Canada, the funds provided by the Canadian government and the provinces to carry out these experiments. And finally, the time given by DFO to do these things in a scientific way instead of imposing regulations that can sometimes be even more damaging for the ecosystems than the initial situation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for that. We'll go now to Mr. Small for the start the question round. And Mr. Small, before you begin, I'd like to pass along on behalf of everybody in the room well wishes to your mom as she deals with some health issues. You will now start for up to 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your well wishes. Thanks to all the witnesses who've taken time out of their busy schedules to help us out on our very important study on right whales, which we care so much about. My question is to Mr. Chidley. Mr. Chidley, I know you've got a tremendous amount of experience in the crab fishing industry, and over the years, you're familiar with the rope that's required to get your pots to the surface of the water and onto the deck of your boat. So what's the breaking strain on the current vertical ropes that you use to retrieve your fishing gear?
Thank you, Mr. Small. Anywhere from 2,500 pound per square inch to 3,500 pound per square inch. And that's basically a 9/16, the equivalent of a 9/16 polysteel rope or a 5/8 polysteel rope. And depending on the size of the vessel, it may go up a little bit from there, but not a huge amount.
Okay, so have you witnessed this size rope break under day-to-day operations, say in deeper water or in rougher than normal conditions when you have to operate?
No, under normal conditions was a tried and true practice for us that why we use 9/16 polysteel rope was because it actually holds less current and has less drag. And we can go to a heavier rope, but it doesn't give us any more advantage because we're fishing in 5 meter seas. And we usually knock off fishing when the seas are around 6 meters. Our vessel is a 22 meter vessel, and we do multi-day trips. And we fish like up to 260, 270 miles from land.
So what would happen if you had to use rope with a weak link with a breaking strain of 1,700 pounds, based on your experience?
We just wouldn't be able to retrieve the gear because we're hauling most of our average depths of waters and this at 100 fathom water, so 600 feet of water. And when you're looking at it, there's 5 or 6 pots off, and the upthrust of the vessel alone, very, very seldom do you end up on the Grand Banks with a sea state less than 2 meters. And so it's just not practical to use any less. We've tried some smaller gear, like when we used to be gill netting, and we ended up having to go back to the 9/16 rope also. And that was so we wouldn't be providing. Ghost fishing is the big issue. And, when you lose the gear, and it's not only just the expense of the gear, but it's ghost fishing is our main concern, and the damage to the resource.
Yeah, and in some areas of Newfoundland and Labrador, Mr. Chidley, I guess harvesters are fishing as deep as 250 fathoms, I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a common, yes, sir. That's a common depth, actually, in the NAFO Division 3K and in 2J, and in the northern part of 3L. And in some cases, when we're fishing outside of Canada's 200 mile, we're down in that same depth of water. So that type of rope then allows us to retrieve the gear out of that depth of water, and it's a significant strain. And we cannot do it like with even dropping it down to a half inch, which is only a 1/16 drop. We'll part off that rope before we get half the pots to the top of the water.
So, given your knowledge of ropeless retrieval systems, what are the drawbacks of this technology, do you think?
Similar thought to the break and strain is the fact that if you were fishing in your own like farmland, if you're on your own farmland, you know exactly where you put your crops to, and like in shoal water, it may have its advantages to be able to use that gear, like in the Gulf. The guys operate in a lot of shoal water, Gulf of St. Lawrence, but where we operate in such deep water, if you're operating in the area by yourself and no one else in that zone, then you have a potential that you might be able to use that style of gear. But if you go out now like the way we are, while we're competitive, we're an IQ fisher with individual quotas. It's competition for ground, and it's not all the bottom. The substrate is not all conducive to crab fishing, or is as conducive to cod fishing. We're probably only fishing like 15% of the ocean floor that we actually have license to fish, because that's the only substrate that's good for crab. And we have issues to deal with that. The first guy out there, if you don't have that gear marked properly, well, the next guy comes out, he'll put his gear right on top of it because he don't know where it's to. It's like a guy dropping a case when he comes in through the door. If the next guy don't pick it up and the first fellow trips over it, and the next fellow trips over it, so you end up with a whole pile of bodies. Good luck on getting the first fellow out from underneath it. And that's the problem.
Okay. Do I have any more time left, Mr. Chair?
30 seconds.
So, do you think that DFO has done all that it can do to consult with the fishing industry in your province, Mr. Chidley? Or have they just simply chosen to use a one-size-fits-all and not put enough resources into making a policy that works for all regions?
In my humble opinion, the fact that there was only Zoom calls held and by invitation to look after such an important issue meant that the consultation process was followed from the beginning, because over half the time was taken up just on presentation, so there was no industry involvement hardly into it at all. And for something like this, that's a major shake-up, the way we've been doing business. Something should have, because there are other ways of handling, and especially in areas where you don't have any sightings or incidents, and the water is just too cold. By the time the right whale decides to come to Newfoundland and Labrador, whether he's going to go up through the Laurentian Channel, by the time he does that, we're finished fishing anyway, because we start in April and we're finished the 31st of July, and sometimes the end of June. Most of the gear is out of the water the end of June anyway, because we have harvested all our product.
Thank you, Mr. Small.
Mr.
We'll
Chair.
now go to Mr. Cormier for 6 minutes or less, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first questions will be for Mr. Cormier. Thank you for being us today, and thank you for the work that you've done in recent years in developing this new technology, these ropeless traps, and also low breaking strength ropes. So first question, in terms of rope-free traps, so we've done experiments in the Gulf over the last 2 to 3 years. I'd like to repeat it, or I'd like it to be repeated. How many crabs have been caught in zones that were not closed with these ropeless traps? I know you said 203 tons. So that everyone can understand, these traps were used in closed zones because there were whales present, and these have been used by crabbers in the region, in the Acadian region. So did this work well? I'm sure that there were some hiccups, but did it work most of the time? Did this mechanism work? Did the rope make it to the surface, allowing fishers to grab the rope? Up until now, has it been working? So like you said, we've been doing tests since 2018 with this type of equipment. We've used different companies that make them. And so we've tried different systems. This year we had 20 fishers who have been using this in closed zones. So in terms of technology, things went well. 96% success rate in terms of the rope coming back up. This was successful over 600 times, if I remember correctly. But there was a lower percentage in terms of rope problems. So losing the rope or human error. So for that, we're at about 87%. So like I mentioned, there's still a lot of work to do. But in terms of the technology aspect, I would say that it's going well. It's reliable. And I mentioned the Ropeless Consortium. This is something that comes up a lot. We need to be adding artificial intelligence to these systems. This would help us to avoid human error, those types of things. So speaking of human error, technology error, have you been able to take the trap out of the water to then find it? Yes. The fact that we're fishing with these ropeless systems means that, it's very expensive. The equipment is expensive. So harvesters have decided to use sometimes 7 traps per trawl. So a lot of witnesses say that this won't work. This rope system that you have means that you can't put more than 1 trap on a system. And so when we're talking about them becoming all piled up underwater, well, we already have the technology to see other fishers' traps. Yes, we have the technology. One of the challenges that we have is if I have traps underwater, they'll show up on my application. But then at a certain distance, we'll be able to see another fisher's trawls and systems on the application. So essentially, this allows everyone to see what's going on. But what we have seen in terms of accuracy, we spoke a lot of this with manufacturers of this equipment. We need to improve the accuracy. We don't have very good cell systems in the area, and so fishers often are using their own satellite communication system. And so there's this communications aspect. I don't have much time left, but in terms of these low breaking strength ropes, have you done tests that have been conclusive in terms of whether or not we can use this technology right now without having devastating effects on whales? Absolutely not. There's a lot more tests that need to be done. Thanks. And for my...
That NOAA fishery, I think, provide a 1-year extension to foreign country to review like the comparability finding for their commercial fishery, I think. So I think this gives us a little bit of more time to prepare for some of those new gear that was supposed to be, if I can say, like mandatory for next year. So I think we should look into that. What does that mean if the weak robe is part of that? So I'm going to end on that, Mr. Chair, because I think my time is done, right?
It is, sir. A little bit over. We'll now go to Madame Debienne for 6 minutes or less. I was skipping over the 2 ladies that time. I apologize for that.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chinley, have you received any news from the DPO, following the letter that you sent, have they contacted you for a meeting? Has there been consultation? No.
When I see this been discussions were still being had here at the House, and I contacted where I had sent the email to Minister Small, and got the contact points and said, "Listen, this is that important that I should make an appearance in person." And as we're finished for the season, it was a timely thing.
Est-ce que M. Cormier...
So, is what Mr. Cormier is suggesting as a solution, in your opinion, could you adapt to this given the context that you're fishing in? Do you think that it's something that could actually work for you before the end of 2023?
I think the difference for us is that in the Gulf of St. Lawrence is a lot different fishing area than we're in, because we're into the one knot to 3 knot currents the whole time. And we try to use a rule of thumb that like 5% greater than the bottom depth, like this, the maximum slack like we'll have on our fishing gear, with lead rope interwoven in about every 25 fathom apart. And that takes the slack off the water, off the surface. And plus it puts less rope, but it still allows you to be able to retrieve the gear. And I really think that slack rope on the water is a bigger issue for whales, like for whales of any type, than anything else. And but while this is not a one size or one shoe fits all approach, I don't think. I think what will work where there's incidents of sightings and of right whales in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, I think that this system that they're setting has potential. And but for on our area where there's there really no sightings, no occurrences whatsoever in the deep water, and like we haven't seen them. And I've had 50 years on the ocean, never seen a right whale yet, and so that says a lot. And so I think they should continue with the work in the Gulf, and if it's an extension that they need for operating up there, well, by all means, develop the gear and make sure that it can work. And if there's something that allows fishers to an increased activity in a now closed area, by all means, they're going to jump at to do everything possible to get in there. So good luck with the development, and I look forward to actually seeing how it will work in the Gulf.
Monsieur Cormier, est-ce que vous...
Mr. Cormier, do you think that it's realistic and attainable, even with the report on the timeline, to do all the necessary tests, to get all the necessary equipment, and to digitize all fishers? Is it realistic?
Je crois qu'il y a définitivement possibilité de faire les choses. Par contre, je suis de l'avis qu'on doit prendre le temps qu'il faut pour que ça se fasse. De précipiter les choses aidera en rien le...
Yes. I think that the more we do, the better we'll be able to improve upon the technology. So we need to follow the steps, use the scientific method, and most especially, we need to be working with fishers. If they want to have their buy-in in this, they need to be involved in tests and developing this technology. Do you think that in order to save the foreign market, do you think that we're promoting what we're doing enough? Because what I can see through listening to you is that you've established an amazing system, but do you think that we're raising awareness of this enough? No, I would say I agree with Mr. Chidley. We need to spread awareness a lot more and promote this. I think our tests have got a lot of people interested in this, but there's still a lot more that we can improve. if I can just take a second to add this, we have companies like Publix in the U.S., so a big grocery store chain, and they've used our videos on the work that we've done in recent years to advertise for snow crab and to tell everyone that snow crab from Canada has been harvested in an eco-friendly way. And so I think that this is a great example of positive visibility. But that being said, I do think we could be seeing more involvement. I agree with that. Thank you.
Go to Ms. Barron for 6 minutes or less, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. Welcome in person as well to Mr. Chidley. My first question I have is for Mr. Chidley. You'd spoken about the safety concerns relating to the whale-safe gear that's being used, and I'm wondering if you can expand on that, perhaps provide a few examples of what you're seeing on the water and what we should be considering in our recommendations that address these safety issues.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for the question. The big issue when we're fishing offshore and any fishery that's you're involved in is that the rope strength has to be a sufficient breaking strain that you're not going to part the rope when it's in the hauler under normal working circumstances. And because there's a huge, the difference is that when the first pot is leaving the bottom, then the weight is not so great. But when the last pot is leaving the bottom and the first one is at the rail, you've got sometimes 5 or 7, depends on the depth of water, that are coming through the water at the one time. And most of those pots, like just on a normal weight circumstances, the pot itself is 40 pounds, the ones we use. And if there's 100 pound of crab in it, and then there's the drag coming up through the water, you touch that you don't have to cut it, you touch that with a knife, and that's a zing. It's just like a guitar string. And that's so, if that rope parts when and at critical time, and the crew member is handling that, well, he could end up with severe lacerations like to the hands or the face or anything else. And that's the big issue. That's why we have a tendency, we'll knock off fishing when the sea reaches 5 meters, because we know we part off gear when the sea is between 5 and 6. So we stop at 5 meters. And I mean, you're talking 16, 17 feet. The sea, so sea state, and because we're at sea for multiple days, and our vessels are larger, that's what. But in just a comment on one of the things that Mr. Cormier and them are doing is development of gear. You have to look at the cost, because a lot of the cases are is that around Newfoundland and Labrador is that a lot of guys only have like 10,000 pound of crab quota, and so like it's probably out of reach for that type of a fishery. Whereas in the Gulf, like you guys got, like ourselves, like you probably got 100 or 200 ton of crab to catch on an individual basis. So that's, the economics are totally different when it means investing in that type of gear. Yeah, sorry, but it's away from your question, but certainly I hope that'll, it's just an addition to where we're to, the constraints that we find ourselves under in this environment.
Yeah, no, it's all very helpful, especially we're in the stage now where this is the last of the study, so it helps to formulate the recommendations and to bring everything together. So any additional information, I'm happy with that. I'm curious if you can provide some perspective. I appreciate that in 50 years out on the water, which is great, that you're here and sharing with us your wealth of experience, that over those 50 years, I believe you said, correct me if I'm wrong, that you've never seen a North Atlantic right whale in the waters during that time. And we're also seeing, as a result of the climate crisis and, of course, human-made activity, that there are some changes or shifting in behaviors. And so there is a potential that we may see North Atlantic right whales. I definitely can't speculate as to whether you will or not. But I'm curious what you feel would be the best way for Newfoundland and fishers in that area where you're saying there aren't any North Atlantic right whales to participate in this process to ensure that we're prepared for if we are seeing an increase of whales.
Personally, I'd be looking at approaching the same fund that Mr. Cormier and them are using to develop a tracking device that can provide real-time access by ocean users to where those whales are to. And as like I said in my presentation, that you may never have to deploy a tracking device in Newfoundland and Labrador waters because they may never. But in the event that they do start to show up, then if you haven't developed, you can put it in. And also, like when I sent some information to the chair on it, and like I know it was probably a bit cloudy, but I just sent a snapshot of vessel activity when the fishing is closed, as opposed to. So can you imagine? It's like a gauntlet. Those whales got to go through when they're coming to the Gulf of St. Lawrence and when they're going back out of it. Right? It's just like going through a gauntlet. Because simple reason is that while, yes, they may use echolocation to determine where one another is to, it's not just the big cargo ships or the fishing vessel. The sailing vessel is much more potential of a hit to right whale because they're quiet. Right? So there's a lot of aspects that we should be providing real-time data to ocean users. We get updates all the time on everything from water temperatures, to weather forecasts. Why not a hit that tells us there's a whale here? We'd certainly invest in that kind of technology to, wouldn't have a problem with that.
So building off that, you had mentioned the consultation that included a Zoom call. With some presentations, and can you share a little bit about what you would imagine a more effective consultation process would look like, and who you would feel would be best to be part of that consultation?
COVID got us away from a lot of the interaction between personal, like the in-person calls, and normally the DFO process would be like they'd hold around the consultations, like they'd pick off probably 5 different parts of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and then they would, and like looking at the evidence then that from our past to say, well, there's no sign of any whales, but what if they do show up? You will get much better engagement of industry providing cooperative decisions on how things should work, as opposed to like a top-down approach to say, well, this is what you have to do, because that stuff doesn't work. You get too much opposition to it, And I'm glad that the Gulf fishers are participating with Mr. Cormier, like in this activity, because it has to be done. It seems like it's more prevalent in the Gulf, and it may change over time in our zone too with the with global warming. We don't know, but we do have one little kind thing on the Grand Banks. We have that cold intermediate layer that comes to ground on the Grand Banks that's been good for our shellfish industry, and so that's kind of keeping everything else at bay. That's why the swordfish are outside in the Gulf Stream, up around Nottingham and on the Grand Banks, and why the Americans are down at the Grand Banks too, at swordfish.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. A little bit over. We'll now go to Mr. Arnold for 5 minutes or less, and I understand, Mr. Arnold, you're going to share your time. I'll leave that up to you when you decide to do that, to whoever you're going to share it with.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will, if there's some time left, I'll be sharing it with Mr. Bragdon. First, thank you to the witnesses, but there's another piece that I want to make sure we get fit into this study, and it's possibly a task for the clerks. As of July 1st, 2020, the Commission on Environmental Cooperation submission on enforcement matters process governed by the USMCA Article 24.27 and 24.28 of the Environment Chapter of Free Trade Agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States has some requirements. On January 4th, 2022, Oceana filed a submission on enforcement matters SEM 21-003 North Atlantic right whales under Chapter 24 of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement. In its submission, Oceana asserted that the United States is failing to effectively enforce its environmental laws in respect to collisions between North Atlantic right whales and ships, typically called vessel strikes. It also alleged that the U.S. is failing to effectively enforce its environmental laws with respect to entanglement of northern right whales. On June 3rd, 2022, the Secretariat determined that the submission warrants the preparation of factual record under 24.28 and so informed the Council and the Environment Committee. According to the CEC website, the CE Council would normally vote on whether to authorize the Secretariat to prepare a factual record within 60 working days of receiving the recommendation. However, as of October 28th, there's no record of any vote by the council or record of authorization by the Secretariat. This is looks like a potential significant impact to U.S. Operations, fisheries operations, and I'm wondering if the analysts could possibly do some research, provide it to the committee so that we could consider the possible implications here in Canada of this situation so that we might be able to include it in the report. Thank you. Now I'd like to move on to Mr. Philip Cormier, please, just for a quick question. How many companies are involved in contracts to test either ropeless gear or weak brake strength gear?
Just to confirm, are you asking how many companies build those equipments, or who's testing it?
No. I'm wondering if you know how many companies are actually working with Department of Fisheries, Oceans, or the Government of Canada on developing and testing that type of gear here in Canada.
There are at least, I would say, probably 4 other groups that are testing it in the Gulf of St. Lawrence that I'm aware of. There are many companies that actually fabricate those types of equipment. We've been using one, and the reason for that is because we wanted to be able to see all of them at the same time, because that will actually be one of the issues when fishermen start using different brands or so. This is an issue that's been discussed at the Ropeless Consortium for the past, I would say, 3 years now. So
Thank
everybody
you.
can.
Thank you. I'll move on now to Mr. Chidley, if I could. Mr. Chidley, you described tracking devices for bluefin tuna. Could you better describe what the size and the use of those type of devices and why they might or might not be usable for the right whale tracking?
Yeah, those devices are supplied specifically tailor-made for bluefin tuna. They're satellite tracking devices, and every time the tuna doesn't have to come to the surface to breed. But every time they do come to the surface, they download the information to a satellite, and then that's tracked through different, through our Canadian parts in New Brunswick. And but with a mammal that has to come to the surface to breed all the time, every time they come to breed, you're actually getting a real-time track and hit. So, with today's technology, that should be easy to download to any of our vessels, on a real-time basis.
Okay, thank you. Is there any time left to share with Mr. Bragdon?
Yeah, it's 8 seconds, so all he can do is state his name probably in that. Yeah, so yeah, there you go. Done. Your time is up, Mr. Bragdon. We'll move on now to Mr. Cormier for 5 minutes or less, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions are for Mr. Haché. Thank you for being here with us. You represent the Acadian Society. We have 14 municipalities who are a part of this. You are also mayor. We can say that your region is the capital of fishing, lots of crab there. So fishing is very important. And do you feel that the DFO is taking into consideration the impact that this will have on these coastal regions, on fisheries, on whales? Do you think that the DFO is considering this enough? We know that if we're not protecting whales, we might lose access to certain markets. We know it'll be difficult for communities. But do we need an even broader perspective when considering these types of measures? So each spring, when we approach fishing season, we feel a certain level of tension. This is well known, especially in my region. There's a lot of ice oftentimes in the sea, and this puts a lot of pressure on fishers because sometimes they're not able to get where they need to go, not able to get to the spots that they're used to going to. And this creates a lot of tension because we have so many factories and related companies that are involved in this at the same time as fishers are preparing their boats. And so, yes, it has a great impact on us. Could we say that since 2017, these whales are coming into our regions and now it's 2022? Do you think that there are less concerns now, or? Well, there are concerns. But entrepreneurs, along with scientists, have created some great results. Mr. Cormier presented some research that's being done that's very interesting and very helpful. I think we need to increase funding in this area to make it even better and to move forward more quickly. Even if we're aware of the results, there's still concerns. It does, it is a risk for foreign companies, countries we export to. So in my speech, I talked about sharing a positive message, sharing information and results, the fact that this is very important. And I also mentioned this human perspective, the social economic aspects of the region and the sort of collateral impacts these things can have. These need to be evaluated just as much. They're just as important. Thank you, Mr. Haché.
Morrissey.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to Mr. Chidley. This committee has heard numerous testimony, and it comes down to, I'll condense it, no one size fits all in a solution. One is that Canada must take steps to protect the whales, or it could have significant impact on our customers in foreign countries. And one of the solutions, biologists appeared before the committee and indicated that current tracking devices used in other species could not be adaptable to North Atlantic right whales because of the biology of the animal. It simply will not work on them. So everybody would agree that technology would be designed. So, and again, 2017, up to 2017, there was no problem in the Gulf. They showed up quickly and the results were disastrous. So do you think it's not prudent that the FO be proactive in recognizing that the whale may migrate into your area and that we should be prepared for when that happens?
Yeah, yes, by all means, you had to be proactive, but you also have to look at the development that they're taking into consideration for the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Why not be developing a tracking device that's suitable to the animal and to be able to deploy it on the animal for whether it be a whale or whatever, because I know, like you talk about, there's much thinner skin and everything else on a bluefin tuna, and if you put it on a whale, I mean, you may find that one type don't work, but then you just do more investigation and you develop the equipment to be able to do that. But if that's what it takes, the other side of it is that we're saying is that even if you don't put a tracking device, the minute a whale is sighted, if you broadcast that, then that helps a big lot. So he's sighted in one area, and he doesn't go 2 miles without breeding. So there's ships, if that snapshot I sent of the pictures of the ships on the ocean, well, there's always ships going to identify what a whale is, even though we have a significant amount of fog on the Grand Banks, but the whales are not there then. The whales are not on the Grand Banks at that time of the year. So for my mind, the development of technology to be able to put a tracker on the whale is more helpful to our area then it probably would be in the Gulf where the ropeless gear may work better because of the shoulder water. That's all I'm saying. I don't say that there's no need to do anything, but we had to be. You just can't bar off the highway because there's one reckless driver. You got to be able to. You got to be able to adapt as you go, right? And to me, is develop the gear, and we will succeed if we do that.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. We'll now go to Madam Debian for 2.5 minutes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm still concerned about the differences, essentially, between different fishing sectors. Mr. Cormier, Mr. Haché showed us that I think we've well understood that fisheries are a fundamental part of the economy. And without fisheries, many areas in these coastal communities would have a lot of economic and social issues. So, Mr. Cormier, so should we be looking more at different sectors? What is the goal of these whales when they're going to different regions? Should we be focusing on these different sectors to try and understand? I think that could be a good idea. Sorry, I have some feedback. So I think it could be a good idea to work with people from different sectors, be it PEI, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Quebec, in Gaspésie, and on the Île de la Madeleine. We've seen that each sector is different. And each sector is working with its own environment. So I think that, yes, in terms of whale presence, we are looking at tracking devices, and that's a project that we're currently working on. And we're doing so in partnership with a French company. So that's what we're trying to create. We should have a prototype by 2023. This would allow us to see real-time localization of whales. So we would be installing hydrophones underwater, which would help us to identify where these whales are going. And then it would also help us to identify boats to avoid these collisions. So this is the type of technology that we're working on, and we've already come pretty far with it. That's what we're currently looking at. And to get back to your question, in terms of having a different vision for each sector, yes, I think it could be beneficial.
A little bit over. We'll now go to Ms. Barron for 2.5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. It seems like all the witnesses are getting a good assortment of questions, so I think I might just stick with Mr. Chidley, who's here beside me, and continue on with some of my questions to you, if that's okay. First, I just want to acknowledge I appreciate that you spoke a little bit to quite a bit about the tracking devices and how there's a need to adapt and improve upon the technology. We did hear from some previous witnesses around some of the inefficiencies of the current tracking devices as it pertains to North Atlantic right whales. So that's helpful information. Thank you. You had mentioned around the sort of the double impact of the lost gear and the economic impacts. I believe you'd mentioned a little bit about the economic impacts, the impacts on fishers of losing their gear, but then also the increased ghost scare that result in the waters. And I'm wondering, can you share a little bit, are there any specific fishers who are talking to you about that? Can you just elaborate on what stories you're hearing around that, and if you're seeing increased ghost scare in the oceans as a result of this whale-safe gear?
The last part of your question, I didn't fully understand it, but we don't have any whale-safe gear yet, right? That's not part of our fishery, and we don't want to see it to be part of the fishery until it's proven, tested, and true that we can put something there that we can successfully retrieve our gear and do it in a safe manner. I addressed it in earlier. Was basically it's not just the economic hit like under gear replacement. It's actually the sustainable issue and the use of the resource, like from ghost fishing, because it's unquantified amount of damage that the ghost gear does on the bottom. Even though we have over the years we've adapted, we've put biodegradable twine in our pots, but yet when you over time, like this has an impact like on the crab and thing, especially when they're in mold process, and so we've done everything we possibly can in regards of management, and there's cooperative management with fisheries and oceans too. Like I must say, all over the years that I've chaired the fleets, and basically any decisions that were done like jointly, and we look at what the resource is and how we're going to and how it's behaving, and what you do like with twine sizes for grading the crab on the bottom, not disturbing the females, like and have your biodegradable twine in the event that there's lost gear. The problem is that we're seeing the huge cost, like on gear replacement, because we had to replace the gear every 4 years because it's made out of steel, so the steel naturally rusts out, the pot gets lighter, so they go all over the ocean floor. And even though they're set in strings of 100 pots for offshore, we use 100 pots in a string, close to 20 fathoms apart. This is 2 mile string, so we only use two haul up lines in 2 mile. We have 12 strings to gear aboard the boat. There's 1,200 pots we're licensed for. So it's a significant investment, like to have on the ocean at the time, to be out there looking around to be able to say, well, are we going to be able to haul today? Because the day you can't haul your gear because you're trying to keep from busting it off, is a day that's costing you money, and it's costing the industry money, a lot of money.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. We'll now go to Mr. Perkins, who I believe is going to share some time with Mr. Bragdon, as if he's more friendly than Mr. Arnold, to whom that is. So we'll see what happens. For you, sir, for 5 minutes or less between you.
Oh, we'll see what happens too.
Yeah, exactly. It's all good.
Like Mel, just if I could start with just a notation for the analysts. We had Mrs. Brown on the meeting 36 say that she would table with us U.S. right whale numbers, and I'm just following up to make sure we have that so we can do it as part of our report. Mr. Chudley, I appreciate and thank you for your comments. First, like to follow up a bit. We had a lobster fisherman from Southwest Nova Scotia here last week, Sean Muse, who was actually testing this summer. He's in a winter fishery, but testing in the summer the weak gear, and had to, as the Brazil Rock and the Coldwater Lobster Association, who were also testing it, had to stop their fishermen from doing it because of the potential danger for crew members. And they particularly talked about the weight and the plastic parts of the mechanism that broke and could, under tension, harm crew. Have you actually seen that happening, or have you just been told it from others?
No, we've been proactive over all our time in regards of now every now and again we will bust a string of gear. Like if we get a sea that all of a sudden appears, like when you're fishing in a 5 meter sea, and all of a sudden you get an 8 to 10 meter one, and you're with the gear in the hauler. Well, if you don't have the proper settings on that hydraulic system to allow that to back off, then you're going to snap that gear off, the same as sewing cotton, like the older expression used to be. And But that's the issue. So, like, but we always are prepared for that. But when you're introducing something into the system that you know is going to happen, like, that's the problem, right? And we know we're going to break off that line every time we hook onto it, you know, and that's because we fish in that type of environment.
That was basically 100% of it broken. That was in summer conditions and not in winter conditions, which is totally different. Mr. Cormier, we had testimony last week from those same Southwest Novas that tested the ropeless gear that said it was $4,000 to $5,000 for each lobster pot, you know, times 400 pots, which is what a LFA 34 lobsterman would have. That's obviously a cost that is prohibitive to actually be functional. When the gear that you've been testing, the ropeless gear, what does it cost per unit?
I do believe it's about the same cost. I can actually give you the exact number, but that's basically the reason why our fishermen in consultation with us decided to go with trawls instead of individual pots like they used to fish. So that's another thing that they have to learn to fish with, because they've never fished with trawls before. So that's another. So instead of having 10 units to 10 ropeless units, they have one, but they have 10 pots, one after the other. And yeah, they've had some issues where they had some mud in their traps, so they really have to learn how to fish with that. And by talking to each other, they actually learn how to.
I'm just sorry we're short on time, so I think I'll pass it over to Mr. Bragdon.
I got a minute. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's all good. Thank you. And again, thanks to the witnesses. And I'll direct my question to you, Mr. Childley. Thank you for coming here and respect your many years of experience in this. I wanted to ask you, as it related to the consultation process, and obviously when policy is being implemented, I know in your testimony you alluded to this some, but I'd like for you to elaborate on do you feel that, not just on this particular issue, but on several issues relating to fish harvesting in Canada, are the harvesters' voices being heard adequately within the department? And if not, what would you suggest? Because the critical importance of having that frontline witness is so paramount as we consider policy direction. So can you speak to that and provide some insight as a fish harvester?
Yeah, in short as possible, no. Consultations are not, they're not what they used to be. And I know, like, we're all getting over the challenges that COVID gave us because of the in-personal problems. But I think in the future what we need to we got to be doing the more regional meetings. Get back to the more regional meetings. You don't have to be doing them in every community, but pick parts in different parts of the provincial regime. And have your... years ago, I chaired a group called the Fisheries Resource Conservation Council, and that was actually the advisory group to the Minister, that if we had a special task to do, we go out and do it, and then we provide a report. That's not there anymore, so that avenue is gone. But right now, like, the knowledge is actually in the regional DFO offices to be able to do the proper consultations, and because a lot of those people in the DFO offices like say in the Newfoundland region, I'll speak to that one. They actually come from like either fishing-related backgrounds, or like some of their people were into fishery, or they've been around like the Marine Institute and on the vessels and the research trawlers over time. And so they know what the ocean environment is like. And so they know like how to carry, and they have personal relationships like with a lot of the fishing industry. And that has been lost over the last few years. I think we've got to get back to that and get the local knowledge there, because to me, the success of our fishing industry is all about cooperative management. And that's right from DFO, right to the industry, right to those who depend on the industry, right? And like that was what was happening over time. And even the science programs, We always had our meetings in the year and looking at evaluating the science programs and see like what your recruitments were like, what your harvest levels should be, look at how long, because not only us, but the banks are also interested in that, very much so. And they depend on a lot of those reports, I mean, to look at how their lending institutions are going to divvy out money to the fishing industry, you know. And so, no, I think we really get back to the grassroots, you know, business of managing the fishery and for advice, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bragdon. I think I was kinder to you than your colleagues by once you went over. No, we go to Mr. Morrissey for 5 minutes or less, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's interesting, from the fisheries side, pretty well everybody that appeared has told the committee what they do not want, but we've been light on solutions. And my concern as an East Coast parliamentarian is our consumer, the consumer we depend on in Europe and the US, is very conscious of what we're doing in Canada as it relates to protecting the whale. And the consumer speaks. It was the consumer that ended the valuable East Coast seal hunt years ago when they negatively reacted and demand and close that border. So what I would like, what recommendations do you give to the committee, and I'll start quickly with Mr. Chidley, to bring back? On one side, we're demanding, or our consumer and even Canadian public is demanding that we not have a repeat of 2017 or anything like it. So we have a number of options. We recognize one size will not fit all. You articulated well the issue of a breakaway rope, and while it would not work in your environment, and that's clearly understood. We are still, I'll come back to you, Mr. Chipley. I want to go to Mr. Cormier with that. We heard that the biology of the narwhal does not allow for current tracker technology to be attached. Am I correct, Mr. Cormier? You spoke about this.
That's correct. That's actually the first thing we checked when we wanted to track the whales. So we worked with biologists, and that's the answer we got.
Do you see that as an option that would become available in the next short period of time that we could, because it would be the ideal, obviously, as Mr. Chidley pointed out, if we could, but then how would you go attaching one to all the animals that are out there? I see that problematic. But do you see anything changing in the short term on that?
I don't really.
Chidley, as a fisher, you're well experienced. What would you ask this committee to recommend in its recommendations that the department should focus on ensuring gear will not interact with the whale, at the same time allowing fishers to access the resource? Because in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, the ropeless technology allowed fishers to reach their quotas in areas that were closed. So we achieved protecting the whale and allowing fishers to reach their harvest. So what would you advise this committee to recommend? Because status quo is not an option. It's not an option that our consumer will accept.
Yeah. There's one thing that the consumer doesn't want, is an ad hoc approach to this issue. I will tell you that. If we're going to make a decision on what to do here, like as a panel, then it cannot be an ad hoc approach that we're going to come back in a year's time or so. We did the wrong.
Could you define ad hoc? I don't quite follow. What do you mean?
Well,
because I'm not sure the consumer is really that clued in. They just do not want to see news stories of whales entangled in Canadian crab or lobster gear.
Yeah, they're not going to see it on the East Coast of Newfoundland and Labrador either.
Okay.
Right? So this is the thing. So while I was saying we have to develop a tracking system that we can, and if it takes a year or two to develop it, Mr. Cormier and them are working on gear that can actually help on the East Coast if we need to do something. That's the big if, right? Like, don't go cut off your arm because you got a fingernail hung out. That's the problem we got to deal with
yes,
here.
Mr. Chimney, yes, I understand that, and quite frankly, that sounds good, but it did not stop the situation that occurred in 2017, which triggered a very, very negative reaction from the U.S. government. And, you know, I'm from PEI. I experienced what a sovereign government can do. They can close their border anytime they choose.
Yeah.
We can fight in the trade courts. 10 years later, we may win or may lose. No fishery can sustain a freeze out of the European or the U.S. market for that period of time. So I'm not advocating we cut an arm off, but continuing to say, well, everybody else is the problem, and forget about being proactive and ad hoc. No, we agree, one size will not fit all, but I still don't hear concrete solutions other than don't impact somebody else, not us.
No, that's not what it is
Okay.
at all. What I'm saying is that continue on the development of creating a tracking system that allows us to be proactive on the East Coast.
But if the
know.
people there says a tracking system is not something that's achievable in the short term or even in the near future and would not be comprehensive enough to protect the whale, then it comes back to the gear. What do we have to do to change our fishing methods or some of the material we use to ensure fishers still can get their catch and protect the whale? I mean, you're moving to put the issue over on the whale and move it and not address it through the gear. Do you see nothing that can be done on modifying fishing gear that would protect the whale?
Well, one of the things that you were talking about with the that fishing gear, that breaking strains, was
Yeah, and I don't think it'll work in the Gulf either. I'm with you on that. But
well,
we have
that's
to
the
come
same thing. Well, we have, but what we're saying is that there is an option here. The option here is to develop a tracking system that allows you to be proactive and letting you know where the whales are going to be too. You know, that's why radar was developed, because of the Titanic. You know, like we have to be doing that. We can't just say that. Look, oh, you got to close the fishery because of this. You reference the seals. Consumer did not shut down the seals. Propaganda did.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this is what we're dealing with here. Like, and the same groups.
Well, but yes, yeah, and we agree on that.
Well,
propaganda
if we
will
agree
shut
on
us
that,
down.
we should agree on the development of a tracking system to put on a right way to protect them.
Yeah, propaganda is the consumer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. That closes up our rounds of questioning for today's meeting. I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Cormier, Mr. Hachey, and of course to Mr. Chidley for sharing your knowledge with the committee here today. And thank Mr. Chidley for appearing in person and sharing his knowledge of the last 50 years on the water, fishing various species. Very valuable information. So we're going to recess for a couple of minutes while we switch over to in camera, and then we've got some instructions for our analysts.
Thank you.